What is Perplexity? After the last blog post video I did, I thought I would follow up with my promise and do a quick video on Perplexity. In this video, we're going to discuss what Perplexity is, what it can help you do, and more important for this channel and this series, what it does for you being a rabbit holder. So let's take a quick look at what Perplexity actually is. Perplexity is a search engine AI. That's the way I've been able to describe it to some other people who have only encountered it for the first time. Think of it like a Google search that then compiles all of the answers into an AI-like ChatGPT style response for you to dissect that information quicker. So let's say I looked up, how old is the Earth? It would then craft an answer based on the sources that it's used in the search. Not only can you use those sources, but you can search directly in those sources if you need to. It uses natural language like most other AI systems do. So I thought rather than just describe to you what it's doing, I'm going to quickly give you an example of how I've been using it and how I think it functions. So what you can see here is just the basic page. You've got how to create a new thread, which I'll get to in a second. Home, Discover, which is sort of a news-like tab. You can, I guess, train this over time to look up certain things that you might be interested in. And the Threads tab, which will give you a quick way to reference back to a previous conversation you've had. So if we go back to the main page, let's do a quick search. How old is the Earth? Now, what you'll see is this is going to look up sources, which it's found 5 different sources to pull from. Planetary, Education, Nation, I'm not sure what that is, and 2 others, Wikipedia included. And it's going to give me a response as if I'd asked this question to any chatbot, really, with one big key difference, I think, which is that it's citing its sources here. So, as an example, the oldest rocks found on Earth are the Acasta Nesis in Canada, dated around 4.03 billion years ago using radiometric dating methods. And it's got 3 and 4 as the sources for that. So if I just quickly click on open up that source, it's actually going to bring me to the website that it read to dissect that information to me. And so this is what you would get normally when you just search something on Google, and I think that that's what makes the biggest difference here. If I needed to dissect that information further, I could go to those sources and look at it, but what I'm actually looking for, and what I think most people are usually looking for, is an answer to their question. What I'm looking for, tell me what it is. Here's another example. Let's maybe try at the bottom here. We can start another search. Use the same thread here. How do I make breaded chicken? Let's say. Oops, I've got a spelling mistake. My camera's in the way there, but it understood me anyway. That's okay. I don't mind leaving my mistakes in. So here's a couple different sources. Again, this has got 10 different sources this time, which is nice. And what it's done is it's taken probably, the most common answers between all these. This is a comprehensive guide on how to make delicious breaded chicken. Gives me the recipes, tells me the steps, and then again, more importantly, I think shows me the sources that it's used for each of those. So if I needed to find out more information, I could. Now, I think the key thing here, again, is that this is a different way of looking at searching. It's not the same as Google, because Google spits out web pages after it's searched those web pages. Perplexity spits out an answer for you citing those web pages. Another really important thing to check out here with Perplexity is this. So let's just go back to the main page again. Focus. Now, this is also a very interesting section for me, and I think something that as this gets expanded is likely to tickle a lot of people's fancy. As an example, if we were just looking for academic sources, we could select here on Focus, Academic, and from here, it will only search academic sources for my answer. Now, these are the only ones I can see here at the moment, but that's still quite a good amount, and it's still a wide selection. You could drill this down, I think, through conversation with the bot itself. asking it, only to look for academic papers, but I think this is a neat little way of sort of just utilizing it as a specific tool for a specific thing. Another quick thing that I'd like to point out here is with Perplexity, and I do have the Pro version, which again I'll get into in a second. You can choose which AI model it's actually using, which generally I leave it on ChatGPT, the GPT-4 engine, and there's an image generation model here as well. Really minimal image generation that's going on in this one now, but I'm sure it'll get expanded in the future. So one thing I wanted to point out with my Perplexity setup is Perplexity Pro. Now, for all you Rabbit holders, if you got in the first 100,000 purchases, you got a special email and a gift that gave you Perplexity Pro free for 1 year. They essentially handed you a $200 credit to use this system. Some of the things that you can do with Perplexity Pro, there's quite a long list, and it sort of feels like the Perplexity free version might really be quite limited. I've not used the free version of Perplexity, so unfortunately I don't have a great comparison for you. But Perplexity Pro gives you an extended sort of search scope in terms of how much detail it's going to ask from you. I am looking for countries that have certain types of animals. This is exactly what I'm talking about. In the Pro search function, it's actually going to ask me more follow-up questions to whittle down my response to something a little more usable. So in this case, it's asking me what specific types of animals are you looking for in countries. I'm going to answer reptiles. And it will now go back and look for specifically reptiles and what countries they live in. Let's read this answer. Okay, I got it. What specific types of animals are you looking for? I can try to provide some information on countries with high biodiversity or endemism for certain animal groups, once I know which ones you're interested in. So, if I choose a related one, which countries have the most endemic reptile species, it'll find me the sources that it needs, same as before, and spit out an answer. Now there is sometimes there is a writing time, just like most of the other AI chatbots that exist, but once it's written out the answer, you'll see everything here, and of course Australia's on the top of the list, but only just. So that's sort of one of the key features, I think, of Perplexity Pro, which I find to be really useful. Some of the other features that you can use with Perplexity Pro is uploading documents, images, PDFs. It can then analyze and summarize those documents and pictures. A feature I've used quite a bit, and again I'm going to get to that in a minute, is taking a photo of something and asking it to explain what it sees. Now, what I keep putting off for you is actually the connection to Rabbit in this situation. Again, as a Rabbit holder, at least for the first 100,000 users, you got given Perplexity Pro for free, essentially for 1 year. What that's going to enable you to do is play around with Perplexity between now and when you get your Rabbit. I think that one of the reasons they've given us this tool, at least in the meantime, is to learn how to speak to your R1. The R1's conversational ability is going to be heavily based on how Perplexity works, and that gives you a clue as to how you should be phrasing your questions as you go forward. So I think it's a really neat gift that they've given us a chance to explore and understand and get used to how to speak to the R1 before we actually get our hands on the R1. Another important thing to note is that once you do have the R1, the functionality is actually the same as Perplexity Pro. I see this question come up a lot. Your Perplexity subscription has nothing to do with your R1. It's simply a gift that they've given you for pre-ordering with them, and something that you should be claiming right now, at least in my opinion. Again, I believe it gives you the chance to learn how to speak to the R1 when you do finally get your R1. And as I've said previously, the R1 is a no subscription device. That means your Perplexity subscription, again, isn't required to make the R1 function. So feel comfortable knowing you can claim your $200 gift voucher with Perplexity, get started today, and learn how to speak to your R1 once you do get it. I've found it quite useful, but I'll be honest, I found it harder to get around than some of the other chatbots like ChatGPT or Gemini, which is one that I used quite regularly. It does need a little bit of practice. And I'm not sure if that's the reason why they gave us the free sub for 1 year, but I'm certainly going to take advantage of it and learn how to speak to my R1 early so I can see just how deep this rabbit hole goes.